Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to get into a really interesting idea. It's about intentionally supporting people, individuals who've recently embraced the Christian faith. And our source for this exploration is some excerpts from Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris. It's a daily devotional, and, well, many find it offers some pretty insightful perspectives.
Yeah, and what really jumps out from these specific readings is the focus isn't just on that initial decision, that moment of conversion.
Right.
It really leans into the ongoing journey. It emphasizes how significant it is to provide continuous care and prayer for these new believers. It's definitely framed as more than just a single moment. It's a sustained path.
Absolutely. So our mission today really is to dive into why this kind of sustained support matters so much and maybe how it can be approached practically, at least according to these excerpts.
Yeah, how to actually do it.
Exactly. It's about understanding that first step of faith as, well, the beginning of something significant, something that needs nurturing.
And that's relevant, I think, for you listening, whether you're part of a faith community yourself or maybe just interested in understanding how people support each other through, big life changes.
Good point.
The principles here about intentional follow-through and encouragement, it could resonate in lots of different contexts, really.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. There's this compelling image used right away, the shepherd caring for their flock.
Ah, yes.
The devotional actually quotes 1 Peter 5.2 from the Message version, talking about this care being done with all the diligence of a shepherd. But what struck me was how it immediately connects this to a very practical idea. They call it keeping a diary of souls.
A diary of souls. That's fascinating, isn't it? Because it takes that familiar metaphor, the shepherd, and makes it actionable.
Right.
It's not just, a nice sentiment. It's a suggestion for deliberate practice. This diary implies a conscious effort to remember and keep track of the individuals whose faith journey you've somehow connected with.
It really makes you think. The text even suggests you might be, and I quote, amazed at how long that list will become over time.
Wow.
That's such a tangible way to see the impact of connection, isn't it? And the growth, maybe, within a community. It's more than just names. It represents individual stories sort of unfolding.
Yeah.
You have to wonder about the cumulative effect of that kind of intentional remembering.
Well, if we think about it just in terms of human connection, that act of actively remembering individuals, it naturally fosters a stronger sense of empathy, maybe commitment too. It's almost like a very personal way of keeping tabs, but specifically focused on their spiritual growth.
Yeah, exactly. Then the devotional suggests taking this even further, encouraging the new believers to do the same thing.
Oh, interesting.
Imagine saying to someone new in their faith, hey, when you lead someone to Christ, let me know. You can send me their names, maybe their addresses. I'll be praying for them too. It's like encouraging a ripple effect of care and this kind of intentionality.
That really highlights how support structures can, multiply themselves, doesn't it? By encouraging new believers to also adopt this practice, it fosters a sense of shared responsibility.
Yeah.
And it empowers them right from the start to actively participate in the spiritual development of others.
It's like embedding mentorship into the very fabric of joining the community. And that seemingly simple act of asking for names and addresses, it shifts prayer from just a general idea, pray for new believers, to something very specific and focused. How do you think that kind of specific intention impacts things, even just the focused thought, maybe separate from the religious aspect?
That's a great question. I think even outside a purely religious framework, focusing your positive intention or thoughts on a specific individual and their well-being, it naturally leads to more mindful and directed support, doesn't it?
Yeah, makes sense.
Whether that support manifests as prayer or maybe just a check-in text or practical help, it moves beyond a general wish for good things and becomes a more targeted active care. And this leads directly into what the text calls strategic intercession. It references Paul's words in Galatians 4.19, which is a really intense image about his travail and birth until Christ is formed in others.
That is a vivid image, this idea of prayer being this active, maybe even intense process of nurturing someone's faith.
Right.
And the devotional doesn't leave it vague. It gives specific areas to focus on in these prayers. Things like making sure these new believers are established in their faith, that they're doing God's will, that they become active in ministry, and ultimately that they bring glory to God. It's a pretty comprehensive list.
It really is. And what's insightful there is how holistic those prayer points are.
Yeah.
They cover the foundations of belief, their engagement within the community, their sense of purpose, and their overall direction in life. It's a very well-rounded approach, it seems, to supporting someone's growth.
And it's not just limited to the people you personally connected with either. The devotional broadens this out. It talks about praying for other new members within the church community as well.
Ah, okay. So a wider net.
Yeah, the emphasis is on praying for all of them to be established in the Word, firmly rooted in faith, and for God to sort of complete his work in their lives. It points towards a collective responsibility of the community.
Thinking about the impact on the wider community, that kind of collective prayer, or even just collective positive focus, it could create a really strong environment, an environment of support and encouragement for newcomers.
Definitely.
Which is so important in those early stages of any new journey, isn't it? Helping them integrate and feel connected.
Right. It's about proactively laying a solid foundation. It's definitely not presented as a hands-off approach. It's a deliberate effort to provide that initial strength and stability. The devotional also mentions praying for their passion, their commitment, and even their fearlessness in sharing their own faith.
Wow.
Which the text suggests can then lead to even more people being brought into the community. It creates this kind of positive cycle of growth.
That really highlights how spiritual growth, in this view, isn't meant to be static. It's dynamic and often outward-facing.
Yeah.
By praying for that boldness in sharing beliefs, you're essentially praying for the ongoing vitality and, well, the expansion of the community itself.
Then the devotional brings in the example of Jesus himself. It references John 17:12, where Jesus talks about keeping those the Father had entrusted to him.
Okay.
And the implication drawn is that this same level of care, this commitment, should be the hallmark, the testimony of those who guide others in their faith journey.
That really elevates the sense of responsibility, doesn't it?
It
shifts it from just offering some initial guidance to a much longer-term stewardship.
Exactly. Stewardship, that's a good word for it.
Just as Jesus watched over those who followed him, the text seems to suggest a similar dedication is needed from those we might help bring into a faith community.
And it all seems to circle back to this core idea that sharing faith isn't, a one-time event, a quick conversation and done. The devotional stresses it's a conscious effort. It calls it a sincere and personal ministry, and emphasizes it's a continuous, deliberate effort to bring others into God's kingdom and follow them up until they're nurtured and grounded in the faith. It really lands on that sustained commitment.
That is such a key takeaway, I think. It shifts the focus from maybe a single act of evangelism or just getting someone to say yes to an ongoing process, a process of support and guidance. It really underscores the importance of nurturing and grounding individuals in their beliefs, not just for their own long-term spiritual well-being, but also for the overall health of the community they're joining.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into these excerpts from Rhapsody of Realities, the central insight, it seems, is the profound value placed on intentionally tracking and actively supporting the spiritual development of new believers.
Yeah, that sustained focus.
It involves consistent prayer, sure, but also ongoing encouragement and this deliberate commitment to nurturing their whole faith journey.
And perhaps for you, listening, it's worth considering the power of that kind of sustained care and attention. Not just in faith, but in any area where someone is starting a new journey, maybe learning something new, joining a new group.
Good point.
Reflect on the impact that intentional support can have, the far-reaching effects it might create within any community, faith-based or otherwise. What might be the result if we all adopted a slightly more intentional approach to supporting those who are new to something significant in their lives?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you later.
For more information on how you can grow spiritually using Rhapsody of Realities, please visit our website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org, or you can also visit rin.rhapsodyofrealities.org/salvation. Thank you.